Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
During our Farm Basics time today, we're going to talk about leaf cuticles.
Believe it or not, leaf cuticles are going to be a different discussion if we're hot and dry, if we're hot and wet, if we're cool and dry, cool and wet. And so it's important to understand a little bit about leaf cuticles because the weather conditions throughout the growing season certainly will vary.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is the surface of the leaf, all right, the leaf cuticle. Is it going to be thick or thin, and how does that impact herbicide use in terms of weeds and actually the crop as well? There definitely is a difference. So we wanted to explain today, Darren talked about these weather conditions. We want to get into what's the impact on the leaf cuticle. And by the way, this is going to impact most all plants. So whether you are a crop farmer, you are a gardener, it doesn't make any difference. We're talking about pretty much all plants.
Well, when you're a plant, one thing you're thinking about is, I've got to survive. Well, when weather conditions are changing, you're trying to put your defenses up sometimes. So for example, let's just say it's really hot and dry. Leaves are going to put a waxy coat on and they're going to try to hold, they're going to close up their stomata. They're going to try to do everything they can to hold that moisture they've got so they can survive.
Okay, so let's put it this way. For leaves, pretty much all leaves out there, they're constantly kicking out little puffs of moisture and they're pulling moisture back in. When they start kicking out lots of moisture and they're not able to get it back in because let's say it's hot and dry, what does the plant do as a defense mechanism? You'll see leaves start to roll up, and then you'll also see, like Darren said, this wax that starts to develop on the leaf. So the stomatas will close, leaves will roll, thicker wax on the leaf, and this occurs over a period of time. It's not instantaneously where we get a thick wax, but you'll see more wax build up the longer we go hot and dry.
Okay, so in those cases, it's tough to get anything into the leaf. So for farmers that are trying to put more plant food out there, it's tough to get that in the leaf because the leaf isn't very receptive. Same thing with herbicides. If you're trying to kill a weed, for example, it's tough to kill a weed because it's got its defenses up. Now, on the other hand, what if it's getting perfect moisture and everything is great out there? Well, then it doesn't have all that defense, doesn't have that thick wax. Well, then you worry about the other side. If you're spraying a herbicide, you might actually burn the plants that you really like, and you say, oh no, I'm getting too much leaf burn out there. Yeah, because there's no defense at all on the leaves.
Okay, so with herbicides, we typically add either non-ionic surfactant or an oil, crop oil or methylated seed oil. The purpose of the non-ionic surfactant is just to spread it on the leaf and stick it to the leaf. That's it. With the oils, their purpose is to spread and stick, but also to burn through a thicker wax. So here's our whole point today. If there's a thick wax on a weed, we want to use an oil typically to burn through that and deliver the herbicide down in. The flip side though is if let's say you have a crop that you're spraying and the leaves have very little wax on there and you use an oil, well now it's going to get into that leaf super fast. You're going to deliver a lot of herbicide in there and you will see some leaf response, some leaf burn. Usually it's just cosmetic, generally not a big deal, but it doesn't look real great.
So as you can see, it's really important to understand how these plants work, because as weather conditions change and as the season moves along, the plants respond just a little bit differently to the things that we're trying to do to them. Well, one specific plant that we're going to focus on today and how you can influence its growth cycle is our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?